Guys, I forgot to put something in this video, so I'm putting it at the beginning of the video. Route 66 race is happening tomorrow here at Tulsa Raceway Park, which would be Sunday. I'm going to try my hardest to be there to watch it because my son has a swim meet all this weekend, but he doesn't swim till 12:15. So my goal is to get there as soon as the cars, like 9 o'clock, as soon as they start running, watch as many as I can, bebop to the swim meet so I don't miss that. So I am going to be there, so if you do see me, you can more than welcome to shake my hand. But remember, I got to bebop pretty quick though. That is not what this whole video is about. The other thing at the very end of this video, I'm talking about barbecue sauce because I had an interesting conversation with someone who dropped off some barbecue sauce and had me try it. It is at the end of this video, but that's not what this whole video is about. Mostly this video is about is this. Hey guys, this is Eric Weingarten with Weingarten Racing. It is Saturday, it's your update video day, and man, I've got a really good one today. The biggest one for today, and hopefully I did this right with the thumbnail. I took all the cams that were entered in the cam challenge, and I entered into this really expensive dyno simulation software to see who the dyno simulation software thought would win. I'm going to share that with you today because it's interesting, and it's cool to see if the computer actually lined up with what's really going to happen. Now, the camshaft challenge, for those that forget or just don't know, that's taking place October 21st, so about 2 weeks from today. However, next week, as you're getting ready to watch this video, several of you, anybody that's donated to the camshaft challenge, and I will put a link in the description, so if you click on this video and you go to the link in the description, there'll be a link where you can donate to the cam challenge. And when you do that, any of the people that have donated, next week, I will be emailing you the cam cards for all 23 cams that are entered. So you can get to see them about a week from today. So that's cool. However, today what I did though in the video, and I'm also gonna do some introductions for some of the cam people in this video. I would do more, but some of you don't answer your phones. But today what I did was this. I have this program, and the program you're gonna ask about, it's from a company called Performance Trends, and it's called Engine Analyzer Pro, and it's version 3.9. Performance Trends themselves makes a bunch of different software programs that help with racing in general. For instance, behind me, I don't know if you can see it, but that black box there, that's from Performance Trend. That's a pressure sensor that works the flow bench, or lets the data collection for the flow bench. They have software for flow bench stuff. They have software for the cam doctor, so as far as checking the cams to see what they actually are. They've got shock dynos, blah, 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 on and on and on. More than I can even tell in this thing. But for Performance Trends makes a bunch of different software is the point. The one that I like the most is their Engine Analyzer Pro. Now this is a very, very, very expensive dyno simulation program. So when I bought it in 2008, it was about 580 bucks. I bet it's closer to 800, maybe even $1,000 today. It's worth it if you use it a lot. So when I had purchased it, it was because I was entering the Engine Masters Challenge competition, and I needed something to kind of help me with that, and that was what it was. I'd also at the time had their homemade Easy Flow bench and used their software for that. The program, like I said, besides being expensive, has the most amount of inputs that I know to enter than any other dyno simulation programs. So most just ask for the bore stroke, what you think it flows, camshaft specs, blah, blah, blah. No, this one asks for even more. It wants to know the CSA for the head, the average CSA. It wants flow charts. It wants flow in reverse. It wants header size, how the flow changes with the header being on. It's got just about a bazillion different inputs, more than I can even imagine. The intake runner length, how the intake flows when it's on the head, everything. So the dyno results get more accurate the more of those that you could put in, but it has far more things than I could even imagine. On the camshaft part of it, when you enter the camshaft part, if you had a cam doctor file from Performance Trends, in other words, you had bought their Performance Trends cam doctor, you could put your cam in there, you could spin it on it. The Performance Trends software for the cam doctor could then send that to the Engine Analyzer Pro, and you'd have the exact load profile in the engine dyno simulation, so it gets you a better idea of what's going to actually happen for power. Huge deal. However, as I'm saying this, the 23 cams from the competitors, Daniel Powell, he sent a cam doctor thing, sort of. He doesn't have every little piece that's in it. But many of the competitors, their cam cards have opening and closing events, which are far more important than just duration. You're like, no, don't be that guy. Here's why. When you enter into the software and you enter the opening and closing events, it will tell you what your lobe separation angle is. But the biggest thing, it could tell you how far advanced the cam should be. So on the cam card, some of the cams are actually ground with 4 degrees advance, 2 degrees advance. One of them is actually ground with 9 degrees advance built in. So having that opening and closing events, I can know that. Some cam cards just gave me, like David Visor is the prime example, just gave the duration for intake and exhaust and lift and the lobe separation. So I have no idea if the cam is ground with 4 degrees advance or 2 degrees advance. I have no idea. So in those cases, I just put it at 4 degrees advance. I'm saying all this to say, I tried to put in as much information as their cam cards had into the software to get the results, which I'm going to share with you because it's interesting. Before I go any further, guess who you think the computer thinks will win the cam challenge? Go ahead and put that in the comments, and then you can finish watching this and you're going to see, because I will tell you. So anyway, I put in exactly as much information as I could into that software to see what the engine simulation would say. And quite frankly, it's pretty amazing. So the software, it's so great too because it was made partially to help with the Engine Master Challenge. It already tells you the average horsepower and torque for the RPM ranges you want. It also tells the peaks. So here's part of your results. I did all 23, and the one that has the best averages according to the computer. And remember, I should back up a little bit. There are 4 categories that makes you win the CAM challenge. You have to have the best average horsepower from 4,000 to 7,000, best average horsepower from 4,000 to 7,000, best peak horsepower, best peak torque. Those 4. So think of it like this: 23 cams entered. Whoever does best at peak horsepower, that's a 1 ranking. So let's say they do number 5 though in best torque, which should kind of be odd, but whatever. Once you average those numbers, whoever the way their rankings are, that would give you who wins. So the goal is to get the highest ranking in each one of those segments. According to the computer, the one that they think will have the best averages, that's only half the score, because this plays a part. The computer thinks the one that has the best averages, and I'm not making this up, is David Visor. However, that's not the one the computer thinks will win. Having the best averages is 2 categories. There are 4. The one that the computer thinks will win is NK Performance. So I'm going to read off the top 5 people according to averages, according to what the computer thinks has the best average horsepower and torque. The top 5 I'm going to read off. I'm going to read off all of them, no, because I don't want to embarrass the people at the bottom. And the other part with this is it's just a computer. This is what it thinks. This doesn't mean what the dyno is going to actually show. And I'll tell some of the problems with that in just a minute. But here are the top 5 for averages. Now, these aren't the ones that will win. Remember, I already told you, NK Performance, according to the computer, is supposed to be the winner. These are the top 5 in average horsepower and torque. So pay attention to this. The highest average was David Visor. So he was number 1 for average, not the winner, for averages. The second highest average was Joe Carroll. And this is where it gets interesting. The third highest average was NK Performance. It won because its peak horsepower and peak torque put it higher than the others. So that's third. Fourth, according to the computer, is B&F Engines. In the 5th place was Brent Likens. I should point out Joe Carroll and Brent Likens' camshafts are only separated by their LSA. So that's what the computer says will win. If you're like, man, can you show us some? I will show you some of this real quickly in the film. But I did have a thought. I just printed these out so I had to be able to go through them. If you would like to purchase a PDF copy of these, and you think you should probably sell those, or at least can we buy them from you? Put it down in the comments like, yeah, I'd buy it. Because if I think I get enough interest, what I'll do is I'll scan them into my computer, which takes forever. And if I'll probably charge like, I don't know, $10. $10 $10 and you can get all 23 of what these are. And I'll show you what's all in it. It's kind of interesting, as you'll see, but if it's not interesting, no problem. I'm just going to keep these and just file them away. But because this is not the actual numbers. The actual numbers will come when we Dyno Challenge, and then you're going to get the actual ones. But it's neat. I mean, it's cool. But anyway, that's who it thought was the best. But here's the problem with the software. So in case you're wondering, like, what if this? How could the software be wrong? Here's how. Deflection. So the software has no way of knowing how much deflection this whole valve train system has. And let me explain. So the software will let you enter the camshaft profiles, but since I don't have them, all I put was mild hydraulic roller. So that the computer estimates a mild hydraulic roller. Obviously, some of these lobes are more aggressive than others, which we'll get to in a minute. But the thing is, some of them, just because the way they're loading the lifter, can have more deflection. So the computer assumes the cam card I entered is exactly how the valve will move. In a running engine with deflection, you will probably lose both lift and duration will change, even your LSAs, because of that. So what the engine's actually experiencing versus the cam card won't be the same. The computer thinks it's exactly the same. So that's why some of these numbers can be off from what the computer says. Back to the lobe profile. Because I don't have the lobe profiles, some of these lobes are definitely going to be different than others. Some will be opening the valves quicker, faster, and more stable, and could then produce more power than what the dyno simulation says. So those are some huge things just related to cams that the dyno software may miss. And this is, to my knowledge, is one of the best dyno simulation programs that are out there. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm sure Ford, Chevy, I don't know about Chrysler, have some really advanced, even more expensive software that they use. But for the average consumer, this is probably the best you're going to get. And I shouldn't even say average consumer. For the best engine building shop that's really wanting to know some of this stuff, this is it. Because I don't know how many people would throw down $1,000 for a simulation program. So anyway, I'm going to show you just some of them. So I'm going to grab my phone here. I'll get closer so you can see what all it's recording. I'll show you what I'm talking about. And then I'm going to do some more camshaft competitor intros. And I would do more of them, but people don't answer your phone. So anyway, let me show you this, and then I'll do some introductions. All right, I'm kind of getting a close-up on it so you can kind of see. You're like, what are we looking at? The top line is the horsepower and torque, so you got those. You can tell it produces way more information than just that. Look down at the side. But the biggest part is here, it makes things really easy. According to this is what I mean. With a David Visor cam, it says it's going to make 653 horsepower and 567 foot-pounds of torque. That may be pretty accurate, by the way, because right now with the small bore, it makes about 681, but we're 13-to-1 compression. This is 11.45 compression with these new heads that are going on there. But if you look at the others, I can turn the page. So like Joe Carroll's is right there. He's not that far off. You got a 525 versus a 553, and you look at, he was a focus here. There you go. He was a 526, 554, so he's only down one for each. So it's really, really close, and his peaks are only down a little bit too. But then you go to NK Performance, which is third place. He's 524, so he's down a little bit there, 553, but look here, 664, 566. That's why it thinks it's going to win. So, and you could tell on how it goes. Matter of fact, if you look all the way through, it's making 661 at 60, almost 664 there at 6,700 RPM. That's probably pretty tracking about how correct it will be. But you could tell this thing just gives so much information. So, like actual CFM that it's using, which says 888, 901. Hence, 1,000 CFM carburetor is pretty important. Don't care what they say. I'm going to try to move my camera out of the way so I can show what the last place guy is. Not who that is, but what they will be, what the computer thinks they'll score. So bear with me as I do this. This is the last place guys, what they think. 503 average, 534 in horsepower. It thinks it's going to make 657, 552. So if you look at the peaks, it doesn't look that far off from everybody else. But the average, 503, compared to the, according to the Visors, it's 520. Yeah, this is way down. So the averages are probably going to kill some of them. Because if you look at this one, the peak power is not too bad, but the averages just aren't, especially at 4,000, 400 foot-pounds of torque. The others are go and try not to embarrass anybody. They're doing 448 when it rolls in. So you can kind of tell how that plays a factor into some of this. This is really reminiscent of Engine Masters. If you want to do good Engine Masters, to get the averages, you focus down here. You don't focus up here. You get your score starts from the hit. That's the biggest part. Because like the one you just saw, he made 400. This one makes 448. You just gained 40 points on him right there. So even if he makes 10 more horsepower, he ain't making 40 foot-pounds. That's a way bigger difference to make. You gain it in the lower. But we'll see how that all plays out. Now, again, these are just estimates. But anyway, let me get to intros, and then we'll end the video. Okay, here's some more of the camshaft intros for some of you. And I don't have a picture for some of these, so it is what it is. Sorry about that. Trying to get this done. I've got a swim meet to go to in like less than an hour. So I'm trying to get this video out. Yeah, swim season started again for my son. So we're talking about Tim Hillard. Tim Hillard is one of the competitors in the competition. He actually has 2 cams in there. The other one that he has underneath here is Optimum Performance. That's his business. And his business isn't necessarily even selling camshafts. What he's primarily, his business is focused on, and he said he wanted to thank his wife for the help with the business, that she's a really important part of this, is the business that they sell deals mostly with road course cars. So, and they deal with consumables such as, and mostly Mustang road race stuff, but it'd be like brake pads, tires, wheels, things like that. I'm sorry if I'm getting more of this wrong, but I did try to get as much notes as possible, but mostly consumable parts with race cars that do road course stuff. And that's what they're primarily focused on. So then you might say, well, why did he enter a camshaft challenge? Well, because he wanted to see what would happen to, because he had some software that he said he ran. He then said, after getting what the software said, he then went and found some shelf cams, and he got the shelf cams that were closest to it, and that's what he entered. So he did enter 2 shelf cams that came from him. They came closest to the specs that he has. They're by 2 different companies. So both these cams that he had entered, one under Tim Hillard, then underneath Optimum Performance, there are 2 different cams from 2 different companies that ground them. So totally different cams. And anyway, that's his story. Again, he told me to thank his wife for the help with that, and that primarily they do Mustangs, so this isn't even an LS thing. I mean, although let's face it, most Mustangs that run good have an LS in them. Casual joke, we all know the Coyote's good too. Anyway, the next one was John Elford. Now he's a competitor that's entered as well. His business that he's primarily says he's known for is he mostly does transmissions, and mostly diesel transmissions. So he's probably making far more money making diesel transmissions than you ever do on race transmissions for us race car guys, because I know diesel transmissions are pretty expensive, but his primary business is that. He also does do boutique engine building. So he'll build a few engines from time to time. I think he said he does about 6 a year, 6 to 12 or something like that. So he does do build engines as well, but mostly, like I said, it's diesel transmissions. And I asked, well, how did you get your cam? He said he uses just about every approach to cams. And I think I totally screwed that up when I said with Brent Likens. When I said combination, what I meant by combination is he uses everything, which it sounds like John Elford does too. He says, I use experience, I have software, sometimes I use the opening and closing events to go with it. It's a combination of pretty much everything that's there, and that's how I got my cam. And that's how he got the one that he sent in as well. He's in Washington State, and he seems like a really good guy to talk to. So that's John Elford. So hopefully you got that one. And the last one I'm going to have for today, because for whatever reason, no one else answered the phone, or I forgot to write notes, is GPI or Watney Performance. And this guy that I talked to, his name was Ryan. Ryan was fantastic to talk to. So GPI has an interesting story, and I hope I'm not butchering it, because they're actually a combination of multiple business types now, really. So here's what I mean. GPI, I guess they were installing cams and heads and whatnot before, and I think he said they were working at a dealership, but then they made their own individual spot that they were doing that, and then they end up buying Kuntz & Company. For those who don't know who Kuntz & Company is, if you were big into Fords, because I would say Kuntz is far bigger in the Ford world than it is in the Chevy world for sure, at least in the past. Kuntz did a lot of Ford stuff. For instance, the Headhunter head that you see for a small block Ford, that's Kuntz. There's lots of other stuff as well. But they end up buying that because, as you guys might know, Kuntz himself, he passed away. So GPI actually owns that part of it too, and they do cylinder heads as well. So now GPI does cylinder heads, they do camshafts, they do a lot of stuff, and they do quite a bit of it. And here's the best part for me, and I'm hoping this works out. I hope to go visit them, and I'm gonna tell you why. Koontz & Company is in Arkadelphia, Arkansas. My son, who, as you know, is a swimmer, because we just mentioned about a swim meet, this is his senior year. He's trying to go to Henderson State, which is in Arkadelphia, Arkansas, to go swim there. He's got a visit, I think in 2 weeks we got to go to. No, it's more than that. It's like 3 weeks or something. But anyway, we have to go down there and see it, and maybe I'll get to stop by Koontz & Company, because for a large part of that visit, he'll be doing his thing while we're standing around with a thumbs up our ass. But anyway, so hopefully I'll get to go visit them. But yeah, I know Koontz, as far as Koontz the business, far before this camshaft challenge, or even before doing YouTube. They really do some amazing cylinder head work, or did. They probably still do as well. They do dyno stuff as well, so they got a lot of experience. Because they do so many camshafts, and he even said this, and he was the first one that I heard actually say this part of it. And I'm thankful that he did. He said, we do a ton of camshafts, right? We do a lot. From the LT5 stuff, which is, the direct injected stuff, to even like the LS stuff. He does a ton of them. But the thing that they don't do so much of is LSs with carburetors, which is what this dyno cam challenge is. He said, so that's kind of new to us, because we're usually doing fuel injected stuff. So he said, we looked at what we had for experience, and he picked something that he thought would do really, really well. And that's what he entered. And he's the first competitor to compete. So he'll be the very first one that competes. So that's his story. It's pretty interesting. It's a bigger company, GPI, Watney Performance. Got Koontz is involved with that all together. So it's a huge deal, and that's him. And the last thing I'm going to leave you with, so that's all my intros, is I got to talk about this barbecue sauce, which hopefully I put an intro at the beginning of the video to talk about this. So I'm going to bring my camera over and so you can look at these, because you're like, why are you talking about barbecue sauce? Because I love to eat, and because I know my viewers. I think I know you. I know enough to know this. You guys like to eat, because you wouldn't watch me and go, I want that physique, if you didn't eat. So I love barbecue. So I'm going to zoom in and talk about this, because it's a really quite interesting story. And no, I'm not making a dime off this, but it's an interesting story. So hold on just a second. Okay, here's your interesting story. So last week, I'm working in the shop, and I get a call from this guy, and he says, hey, I really like your channel. I get a lot of those, and I appreciate everybody that tells me that. But I wanted to see if you wouldn't mind promoting my product. And I was like, oh, another one of these. Because I get a lot of offers from like Chinese companies. Hey, can you do these dash cam things? And can you promote this ultrasonic cleaner that's too small for anything but jewelry, blah, blah, blah. And I just never do it. But then, so he's asking, and I was like, well, what is the product? He goes, well, I sell barbecue sauce. And I instantly said this, and if you are a barbecue guy, you will understand this. I said, look, man, I'm of the opinion that if barbecue's good, you don't need sauce. And he goes, oh, you're one of those guys. I said, yeah, I am. I said, there's two types of people that do barbecue. You have the ones that like the dry rub, myself, and you have the ones that like barbecue sauce on it. So I said, I don't even know if I'm the guy you're even would be interested in talking to. I don't know if I can promote it, because for one, I'm not a barbecue sauce type of guy. And he says, well, if I paid you, would you do it? I was like, no, maybe. He said, would you want to at least try it? I said, sure. Well, for one, he's in Edmond, Oklahoma, and I'm in Broken Arrow, Oklahoma. That's about 2 hours away. So I didn't think anything would actually happen of it, because a lot of people say that and they never do anything. So anyway, he says, well, I can be there today. Does that work for you? And I was like, yeah. Most times when they say that, and they never show up. About noon, or about when I'm going to eat lunch, he shows up with a crock pot full of pulled pork and the barbecue sauces. And so he says, this is mine, and his net company is Smokin' Bandit, which is a cool name. Great logo, by the way. And he says, I think I've got the best barbecue sauces out there. Give it a shot. And so he makes sandwiches and says, I'll eat it and we'll see what happens. And it's a nice day. It's been nice days for the last few days, or a few weeks here in Oklahoma, no rain. And so sitting down there outside and eating this, I'm like, not bad. It's not bad at all. And he goes, well, I've got the warm flavor, and then I've got hot. Now, this one, you eat enough of it, it'll start burning your mouth. And I'm like, okay. For the record, the only time you ever believe someone's hot scale is if you go to a Mexican restaurant. When they say it's hot. No offense to us normal people, or not normal, but average people. When people say hot to me or warm, it's not. Now to my wife, which I'm trying to get her to taste this just to see if she actually thinks it's hot. But anyway, so I was like, well, let's try the warm. So I try the warm one. This one, he says, it's got a nice hickory flavor. I tried this one. I'm like, this one's much, much better. I like that. It's pretty good. But I'm like, it doesn't taste hot to me. He goes, well, some people say it's really hot. So then I said, well, give me the hot. So I get the hot one and try another. So it's 3 sandwiches, by the way. I get that one. I'm like, it's not that hot. It's pretty good. So I'd actually say this was warm, mild, and no mild. But they are pretty good. I said, look, man, and this is the reason why I'm having on my video. The guy's from Oklahoma, and I said, look, I can't charge you to do a promotion on this. For one, you're a local guy. You're Oklahoma proud. You're made in Oklahoma. See, look at that, made in Oklahoma. We don't make a lot of in Oklahoma. We make people angry. We make oil, but that's about it. So when I see a made in Oklahoma product, there are, by the way, some really good made in Oklahoma products, Bluebell Ice Cream being one. I'm like, you know what? I ain't charging you for this. I don't even know how many people buy it, but I'll just put it on a video because I'm all about food. And then we spent the next, I don't know, hour talking about food and whatnot. And let me know if you guys think this too, because he said something and I have been thinking it forever. He said, do you notice that beef, pork, and chicken pretty much taste all about the same now? And I was like, oh my God, yes, because we're talking about barbecue. For the most part, they do. And you're like, what are you talking about? That they do not. No, it's, if you had even when we were younger, and you had a piece of beef, and then you had a piece of pork, a piece of chicken, definitely all taste different. Now they taste so close to the same. He goes, I think the reason why is because we're all feeding them corn. So they're all tasting about the same. And they kind of do, because now the pork and the chicken, it's not that different. You could easily tell when I was younger, that's pork. Now it's like, not so much. But anyway, we had a great long conversation talking about food. And I thought, man, I should probably wish I recorded this, because as far as food conversation, because I know people like talking about barbecue, that's a good one. But he also said, I got this idea for a barbecue and burnouts. And he wanted to do a burnout contest with, you had barbecue. And I said, you know what? I think it'd be an interesting competition if we could ever have like a drag strip out there where you had, the way it worked was you brought in brisket and you raced. And so whoever's fastest gets a point. And then whoever also scores the best at the barbecue contest gets a point. And combined, that's your winner. Because I think that'd be cool. So like the spectators could pay each person that's doing, who's racing, they pay like $10 and they could try their barbecue, and then they could enter who they thought had the best barbecue into it. Whoever, with all the money that you got from selling your barbecue, you'd actually probably break even on the thing. But anyway, we're talking about it, was really cool. Anyway, he may be supplying us food for the Dino Challenge for Gary and us. I haven't worked out all the details on that, but I know it's 5 minutes of my video and you're like, I hate when you run long. But this I thought I'd bring up just because, you know what? The guy's local and entrepreneur, great guy. He drove 2 hours just to feed me some food. And I'm not even a barbecue sauce guy, so I got to give him credit. So pick up some Smokin' Bandit. It's available at the local stores in Oklahoma, I think in Oklahoma City for sure. But he wants to go bigger, and yeah, he's well worth it. So give him a shot. If you're a barbecue sauce guy, I think it's more your thing. Even if you're not, I mean, I'm not, and I still enjoyed it. So there you go. Anyway, that wraps up my video. Remember that I do not port cast iron heads. I am no Superman. You guys take care.